What a bird. What a bird. What an extraordinary thing that is. Philippines eagle. I remember seeing a drawing, actually, not even a photograph, a drawing of one in a book that I had as a child, and I was immediately entranced. It looked like a dinosaur. Formidable bill, the beak on that bird, so strong. At that time, it was called the monkey-eating eagle. That name wasn't doing it any favors. It became the national bird of the Philippines, so the name was changed to a far more appropriate thing. But what an extraordinary organism that is. Welcome to our self-isolating bird club. I'm in the New Forest and I'm missing Megan today. She's out filming bees. She's got her own beekeeping suit and has been given some top tips on how not to get stung. Well, I don't know how you can in a beekeeping suit, but let's hope she doesn't get stung. So she's making a film about pollinators this morning, and it's a lovely spring day here, so those bees will be active. There's no doubt about it. I don't know if you can hear, but there's a blackbird singing its little heart out just across the end of the garden there. Had great spotted woodpecker drumming this morning up on the tree here, which is pretty good. And I've had great tits up on my buzzard feeding platform. I've got a roadkill rabbit up there at the moment, and the buzzards have done their duty. And the great tits were attending it this morning, pulling tufts of its fur out to line their nest. Nothing goes to waste, which is excellent. However, I'm afraid that any ornithological offerings from the New Forest this morning are going to be put into the shade, because what we've got for you is a Philippines eagle special. Those pictures were coming live from the Philippines, and in a moment we'll be joining a team of conservationists there at the Philippines Eagle Foundation. So a little while ago I was in contact with Jimmy from Raptor Aid. I've told you this already because I bought my tawny owl nest boxes from them online. All the monies go to the charity, so if you're into those nest boxes, do try and get them from Raptor Aid on eBay, and the money goes to that charity. Put them up, got the tawny owls in, was corresponding with Jimmy, obviously sharing the joy, and he told me about his visit to the Philippines, where he'd formed a close relationship with the Philippine Eagle Foundation, and suggested that we link up. What a great idea. Thanks, Jimmy. And so that's what we're going to be doing this morning. Just before we get going with that, let's just see who's joined us this morning. Yeah, we've got a few people here. We've got Stephen from the New Forest, Pauline in Norfolk, Barry from Basingstoke and from Farnham, Lorraine from Shropshire, Debbie in Essex, Doreen in London, the Sheltons, presumably a family of Sheltons in Derby, Paula from Manchester, Michelle from Birmingham. And then we've got a number of questions coming in about Philippines eagles. Do keep sending those in, and we'll try and put some of them to the team a little bit later, but I'm not going to get onto those straight away, because really we need to start talking about Philippine eagles. So let's go over to the Philippines live now, where we've got Jayson, Carla, Dominic and Lohwana, and we're going to talk first of all to Jayson. Jayson, can you hear me this morning?
Yes, loud and clear, Chris. Good afternoon from the Philippines.
Thank you so much for joining us. I've heard some of the bird song behind you there from where you're sat on your veranda, and it sounds even more exotic than my blackbird this morning.
That's right. Yeah, we have several raptors here. Of course, the great Philippine eagle is here, and I'm currently joined by my colleagues, Carla, Lohwana, and Dominic from the Philippine Eagle Center.
Fantastic. Okay, look, well, let's kick off with some basics, Jayson. Tell us a little bit about the foundation and the sanctuary and the purpose of your work.
Yes, certainly, Chris. So the Philippine Eagle Foundation is a non-government organization, and our mission is to help protect and conserve the great Philippine eagle. As you well know, the great Philippine eagle is one of the largest and rarest forest eagles in the world. It is found only in the Philippines, and it is our national bird. But the eagle lost more than 80% already of its original forest habitat, mainly because of logging, farming, and recently mining. And many birds are still hunted and trapped. Now, we think there are only 400 eagle couples left in the wild, and they are critically endangered. And so what do? The Philippine Eagle Foundation do education campaigns, both in the cities and in the mountains, to generate public awareness and develop conservation values. And the Philippine Eagle Center is our primary facility for education. Our education administrator, Carla, will talk about our education work more later. We also do conservation breeding. Now we have eagles at the center that we breed, and we've bred 28 eagles already, including Philippine Eagle Sinag, which was on live camera earlier. And we also rescue and rehabilitate eagles at the center. And we've rescued 10 eagles already within the pandemic period. So just in 12 months, the highest rescue rate on record so far. Dominic and Lohwana, our animal keepers, will tell you more about their work here at the Philippine Eagle Center later. And then, of course, we have our development program, who does the publicity and fundraising. And last but not the least, my program, which is research and conservation. We study, monitor, and protect as many eagles as possible, and also work with communities, mainly indigenous communities, to protect wild eagle families while also improving the lives of their human neighbors. And all of this, education, development, research, and conservation program together is our holistic approach to Philippine eagle conservation on this part of the world.
Well, that was a fabulous nutshell, as we call it in the UK, of your work and your mission. But you've had a difficult year with the pandemic, I understand, Jayson.
Yes, definitely. Because of the travel restrictions, it's difficult for us to move around. And as I've said earlier, interestingly, we've rescued the greatest number of Philippine eagles so far. 10 Philippine eagles, 4 of this have been trapped in the wild. And some were actually shot and had pellets, airgun pellets inside its body. We've also lost visitors from the Philippine Eagle Center because of, again, travel restrictions and protocols. But we're trying our best to persist, and we're very happy to tell you about our work through your show, Chris. Thank you very much.
Indeed. Okay, we've got a little clip now to show you about just how bad the foundation has been hit this year, like many, of course, across the world. And then after that, I'm really pleased to say that the underlying purpose of our chat this morning is not only to spread an idea of the work of the foundation, but also to launch a fundraiser. So hopefully we can generate some funds to put directly back into that Philippine eagle conservation, education, and outreach that you've heard about there. So here's a little film now about the tough times that they've had there in the Philippines, like so many other people across the world, of course, this year. I'm afraid that's probably a familiar story with many of these initiatives across the world. The restrictions in travel, both locally and internationally, have hit them extremely hard. But the work must continue whilst we've had to address the pandemic and all of the ills and troubles that it's given us. It hasn't taken the pressure off the natural environment. We've seen an increase in raptor crime in the UK throughout the period of the pandemic last year, as reported by the RSPB. And here in the Philippines, we hear that the largest number of eagles have needed to be rescued, some being trapped and shot with pellets. So we're just to be very clear, what we would like to do now is launch a fundraiser. And I know it's tough times for everyone, but every penny counts. sibird.club/Philippines Eagles. sibird.club/ Philippine Eagles is where you can go to donate to their fundraiser. All the monies will go directly to the foundation. And as you'll see over the next 30 to 40 minutes, they do some remarkable work over there. Jayson, I'm going to come back to you because we've got some questions coming in, and I thought I'd scatter them throughout if you don't mind. So David Jones has asked, well, his daughter has actually asked him to ask, Malawan, age 9. She wants to know, how long do Philippine eagles usually live?
Yes. So we have a bird here at the Philippine Eagle Center. She lived for 48 years, no, in captivity. And so that's the longest record so far. But we think in the wild, perhaps they could live to just 30 to 40 years because they're exposed to factors such as diseases and harsh environment. But in captivity, they can live to about 48 years.
That's a remarkably long age, but they are a remarkable bird. And whilst we're asking questions, we ought to get into our quiz. And I'm really pleased to say that you're going to do the quiz for us today. So over to you, Jayson. Let's test the people of the world, not just the UK, but the world, on their Philippine eagle knowledge.
Certainly, Chris. So let's do it. Well, I just have one question for the quiz. But first, I want to do what I call an egg exhibit for everyone. I have 2 eggs here. Let me start with an ostrich egg. So this is your ostrich egg. So as you well know, ostriches are large, flightless birds of Africa, and they lay the largest eggs of any land animal. So on average, an egg is about 6 inches long and 5 inches wide and weighs about 1.5 kilos or 3 pounds. So I have here just a portion of an ostrich egg. So here it is. And also I have here a Philippine eagle egg. So this is a shell of an infertile eagle laid by one of our 36 captive Philippine eagles at the Philippine Eagle Center. Now, a Philippine eagle lays only a single egg every 2 years in the wild. Now, they reproduce very slowly, and that's why they can easily get extinct. This egg on my hand is nearly 4 inches long and over 2 inches wide and weighs about 225 grams or half a pound. So it's about 5 times lighter than an ostrich egg. But this is the largest bird egg in the Philippines, apparently, and perhaps also in Southeast Asia in general. So for size comparison, here is your regular Chupa Chups lollipop. And here is the Philippine eagle egg. No, so again, it's the largest bird egg in the Philippines. And now to my quiz. Again, just one question. And to be fair, it would be through a multiple choice. So the question is, what is the minimum incubation period of a Philippine eagle egg in the wild? Again, what is the minimum incubation period for a Philippine eagle egg in the wild? And the choices are A, 54 days, B, 58 days, C, 62 days, and D, 66 days. Again, A, 54 days, B, 58 days, C, 62 days, and D, 66 days.
Excellent. Thank you, Jayson. That's fantastic. We've got another question I'm going to give you whilst people ponder that. They'll send their answers into us, Jayson, and we'll tell you who's got it right at the end when you can reveal the answer to that. Sandra Hux, Philippine eagles, at what age can they first breed?
Okay, I'll call on Lohwana to answer the question. Lohwana, please.
Okay. Hi there.
Hello, good morning, Lohwana.
Good morning and good afternoon from here. So yes, at what age do they breed? That's the question, correct?
Correct.
Yes. Okay. So for females, Philippine eagles, the females can reach sexual maturity at around age 5 years or 5 years of age. And then for males, they're a little bit slower. They'll reach age of sexual maturity at about 7 years of age. So at that time, they'll start producing like mating calls. So that's a sign that they've reached maturity. And then for males, though, we've noticed that at age like around 10 or so, that's when they actually have like semen production. So they're a little bit more delayed, but otherwise from 5 to 7, and then for males, like about 10 years, then that's when they're able to breed.
So that's one of the challenges, isn't it? Because an eagle has to survive for a long time, 10 years, a male eagle, before it can even start to think about breeding in the wild.
Yes, correct. So they do have a very slow maturation rate. And so that also contributes to why we need to conserve them, because they have to reach that age of maturity in order to reproduce.
Lohwana, whilst we've got you there, tell us a little bit about the conservation breeding program that you have. We've seen one of your captive birds, Sinag, this morning. I know you have a very close relationship with that bird. So tell us a bit about how that program works.
Yeah, and I'll also call in my fellow keeper, Dominic, because he's
Dominic.
also
Morning,
part of our conservation breeding program. Yes, so he'll explain.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, Philippine Eagle Foundation. So the main objective of this project, about our conservation breeding, is to really breed the Philippine eagle in a captive settings and release their offsprings back into the wild to their natural habitat, and to replenish their wild populations. Okay, so in order to really achieve that thing, so we practice two methods, two different methods. The first one is the natural pair. So we do have like pairing of birds naturally, like both birds, adult birds, Philippine eagle birds, of opposite sexes. And then we put them together in one big enclosures for breeding, as our natural or compatible pairs. And another one technique is we call it cooperative artificial breeding. Okay, so in this case, the keepers, like me in Lohwana, have a direct involvement with the birds, as our as the human surrogate mate or partners. Okay, for semen collections and for artificial inseminations to our human imprint. No, we call it human imprint Philippine eagle. Okay, so that's how we do our breeding here. So, but priority is for natural pair. But there are birds that really cannot be paired with another birds due to like our environment here. The issues like the bird getting imprinted to the human keeper. All right. So, and then after that, like if we have the egg, so we do artificial incubation at our laboratory or incubation facility, okay, just to ensure the survival of the developing embryo in the egg. And after that, when we have the chick or the eaglet will undergo a series of mentoring with our adult Philippine eagle, okay, and then after that, we do training also with our aversion facilities before we release them into the wild.
Now, how has that breeding and releasing program been going? You've already explained that the males need to live to 10 years old before they can first breed. I can imagine it's quite a challenging species to breed in captivity.
Yeah, well, so we've bred 28 Philippine eagles so far, but we've released just 3 birds in the wild, and unfortunately, it wasn't that successful. We still have issues with our birds getting imprinted with their caretaker. So what we're trying to do now is to breed the birds in isolation so that they don't get imprinted, and then hopefully we'll get suitably reared birds, that we can release back to the wild. So the team is currently working on that. Hopefully, we'll get more birds in the near future.
It's pioneering work you're doing, isn't it? Let's be really clear. This is a species that's not easy to work with. I presume many of the birds that you have there have been confiscated from people that have taken them from the wild, or they're injured birds that have been shot or trapped. And those are the animals you have in captivity.
Yeah, actually, our breeding birds here are from rescued and rehabilitated birds. So some of the birds that are really qualified to be released, we really release those birds. But those birds that cannot be, like compete with the other wildlife in the wild, so we put them in the breeding here in captivity, and that's what we do. Like that's what they're used now here in captivity for breeding purposes.
And Lohwana, what are your immediate plans in the next couple of years when it comes to, you know, your breeding program and potential release? Do you think you're going to have more birds to put back out to see if we can improve that survival rate?
Yeah, absolutely. So for like, that's the purpose of like the relationship that I have with Sinag, for instance. So Sinag is an imprinted eagle. He's imprinted to me, or what we refer to as bonded. And as Dominic explained, for our cooperative artificial insemination program as one of our methods, the purpose for that relationship is so that we're able to utilize that technique in breeding. So that also accompanies like the natural pairing technique, but this is like a supplement, an artificial breeding method. And so the relationship with Sinag, that's his trajectory for the future. So once he does reach age of maturity, we're able to kind of add him into our captive breeding program, since that bond is already established, and I'm able to get some like semen collection from him and use that with another imprinted female Philippine eagle who may be imprinted to a different keeper. And so that's how we're able to get an egg, or to have a fertilized egg at least. And then with that egg, hopefully once it hatches, there's a whole bunch of different methods and techniques that we want to keep the bird as wild as possible. And then they go into like an isolation period in a sense where they don't have any human contact. So we don't want them to be seeing humans in a sense. And so that's part of our program. We don't want the birds to become technically imprinted to the rest of the keepers. We have imprinted eagles for the purpose of that captive breeding, but their offsprings can be released into or be part of a future reintroduction program into the wild.
And what about monitoring of wild nests? I know we've got a couple of clips of birds on their nest. Is that something that the foundation is involved with as well?
Yes, we do that. No, that's part of the work that the Research and Conservation Breeding Research Conservation Program does, Chris. So together with our indigenous forest guards, no, we monitor the breeding success of eagle pairs. This is a clip of a Philippine eagle pair in central Mindanao. We first found it in 2017. And I'm also pleased to share that the female actually is a product of rescue and rehabilitation. So it was rescued in 2008. We rehabilitated it. We released it in 2009. And in 2017, no, it has a GPS tracker on its back. It finally bred its first offspring, and it continued to breed in the wild. And we monitor them through its GPS tracker harness on its back.
Fantastic stuff. I'm just going to remind you of that fundraiser, hearing about some amazing work being done there in the Philippines with these extraordinary birds. It's sibird.club/Philippine Eagles. sibird.club/Philippine Eagles. It would be great if we could make a few donations to make sure that this work is able to continue in this difficult period. It's fantastic stuff we've got there. I'll tell you what, should we have a chat with Carla about the educational aspects of your work there? Morning,
Hi,
Carla.
hi, good morning there, Chris. So I'm from the Conservation Education Program. What our team does is we engage the public to partake in the Philippine Eagle conservation work by raising awareness and inspiring action. And to fulfill that, we utilize the Philippine Eagle Center as a facility where people can learn about the Philippine eagles, how they live, how they thrive in the wild, and not only our national bird, but also the wildlife species that we house here at the center and everything their habitat represents. So here we share opportunities as well to the public, how to be part of this conservation mission. So this is the kind of influence that we want to give to our visitors. And we also want them to leave the facility considering conservation as a career path, maybe, or maybe coming back as a volunteer so they could also share their time and skills with us, or maybe come back as a donor to also help us fund our operations. So on a much personal level, we also aim for them to be able to make ecologically responsible decisions for our environment. And our team also tours visitors around the facility, and we call our center-based volunteers as wildlife buddies, where they share facts about our animals and their IUCN status and how to help them. So this involves meeting the animals and even the keepers here at the facility, just like Dominic and Lohwana, and we facilitate. Yeah, he's right there. And we also, right, so he's just making his presence known. So we also facilitate mini film showings about wild Philippine eagles, which Jayson's team captures. And we also run an open classroom program. So what we do, we give experiential learning sessions to students coming here on field trips. We also have workshops and trainings for teachers and parents. So overall, our goal is just to make the people understand the significance of having a captive breeding facility in saving the Philippine eagle from extinction. So it's basically changing human behavior. So we know that the Philippine Eagle Center is first and foremost a breeding and rehabilitation facility for the Philippine eagles, but it's also home to many other wildlife species. Many of them were turned over after they got shot, from wildlife trade, from hunting, basically human persecution. And this is why we strengthen our campaigns further. And we now utilize the online platform more than we did before the pandemic. So we were actually trying to reach a much wider audience. And we are thankful that you, Chris, and Jimmy, of course, you gave us this window. So we are so happy. Oh, even despite the time difference, so you gave us this window. So we are so glad. So there, we do a planned education campaigns as well. So we go to communities where eagles occur. We want to share best practices, how we could help save the eagles, because they see that in their backyards, they see that in their forest. So we want to let them know that if they see an eagle, they should at least make a noise to shoo them away, or not try to feed them, not attempt to catch them. So this is more of a long-term solution. That's why we do campaigns like that. And we also do a massive education campaign when we have Philippine Eagle releases, at least within a kilometer radius from the release site. So there.
It's fantastic. Now, Carla, we do have a short film now, which we'd like to show, which outlines some of your practices when it comes to culture-based conservation, which I think is something that we should concentrate on, not just in the Philippines, but all over the world, including here in the UK, actually. So let's watch this film, and then we'll come back to you with some questions off the back of that.
Ang Philippine Eagle, more on scientific. Ang scientific, dili na siya masabtan sa tribo. Nag-present ko konsepto nga to kay Sir Jayson. Nag-introduce ko sa iya nga pwede ba nato emerge ang scientific nga interpretation or definition ngadto sa kulturanhon nga sistema sa pag-interpret unsa man hangtod nga nagkamit ang among hunahuna. Nai-resolution ang ubo manubo nga partnership ang Philippine Eagle sa pag-discuss sa kining gitawag nga biodiversity. Hangtod nga na-come up katong gitawag nga Pusaka Council. Ang Pusaka karon mo ay legislator nga magharap sa city, makiglingkod sa PIP para mahimong himuon katong unsa man tong mga palisiya ang atong pagabuhaton. Kay palisiya sa tribo gihimo lang na siya nasa utok lang. No, gihunahuna lang siya, balik-balikon lang na istorya kung dunay meeting. Wala siya madokumento. So karon, ang Philippine Eagle nagtabang sa ato og paghimo og libro. Dinhi masabtan katong scientific, dinhi masabtan katong konsepto sa tribo. Unsaon niya pagbantay ang kabukiran, ang gideklar nga Pusaka. Ang among expansion sa advocacy sa Pusaka nga terminolohiya, filosofi sa pagprotekta sa kinaihan nasabtan sa pagkakaron. Kaysa una, usay ingnon mi sa DNR nga kami ang irresponsable sa kinaihan. Kami ang nagguba. Mo nang dili ko makasulti sa ilaha directly. Ang nagsulti ana, nag-articulate ana, nag-explore ana, mo mismo ang Philippine Eagle. Doon ay mga balaod nga kung kini imo kining pagalapason, doon ay tulo ka dagway sa mga silot sa imha. Unang silot pwede ka multahan og mga butang nga kaya nimo. Ikatulong silot ang doon ay participation ang uban nga mga ahensya og sa gobyerno nasyonal ug nasyonal. Ang ikatulo nga silot katong pwede ka na ipakulong sa balaod sa gobyerno. Panalitan ang pagpatay og Philippine Eagle na sa atong libro sa kining gitawag nga carrying for pusaka nga dili na nimo patyon, di na pwede nimo dakpon ang mga kalaw uban pang mga hayop para sa baboy ihalas, mga binaw. Karon nga panahon, no? Sa na-establish kining pusaka council, dili ka pwede basta-basta magdakop ni ana. Tungod kay na-declare ka na nga ang sulod sa ancestral domain, ang tanang mga butang gideklara siya nga pusaka. Nag-request kang mayor bisan sa Philippine Eagle nga bugna ta og king gitawag nga bantay bukid, no, kun dili tribal forest guard nga mao mismo ay magmonitor adlaw-adlaw anang mga area nga din na-declare nato nga pusaka. Partnership nato ang Philippine Eagle, ang PIP, partnership nato ang DNR ug ang City Muse Office atong partner sa pag-implementar niini nga gideklara sa tribo nga ubo manubo nga pusaka.
Ang una nga ginabuhat sa bantay bukid, ang pinaka-importante mao ang pagprotekta sa kalasangan. So sama sa ginatawag nga bantay bukid, so ang pinakauna gyud nga ginaprotektahan nato ang dirigid sa ato ang kabukiran. Tungod kay ang atong kabukiran is mao na lang na siya ang nahibilin nga makahatag og kanang kaayuhan sa ato ang syudad sama sa tubig.
Para sa kuha natabang sa pagka-forest guard namo diri sa Barangay Carmen Isunungon na sa pagprotekta gyud sa amo ang kalasangan. Kay kung wala ang forest guard siguro wala pud mi kabalo unsaon ang pagprotekta ang among lasang. Ikaduha sa among pamilya. So another income pud siya sa amo ang pamilya. So mo na nga dako pud yung pasalamat kay nahimo ming bantay bukid or forest guard man.
I've told actually that the pets of our viewers are responding to the calls that CNAG is making in the background there. Nancy has been amongst them, although I'm looking at tiny Nancy. She's a bit small for her size. She's only 6.5 kilograms. I say small for her size, doesn't make sense. Small for her breed. And I'm not entirely sure I'd put Nancy and CNAG in the same room, to be honest with you. I think you could get a bit of predated poodle there. Anyway, Carla, it's a fantastic program. I'm astonished by the number of forest guards that you've got there and the amount of community involvement that you've managed to get going. That's a great achievement.
It is. We are actually working not only with the forest guards, but also with the women from those communities. I think Jayson has a lot to say about those communities as well, since he's heading it. So, sir, would you like to say something about the forest guards?
Yes, definitely. It's one of the, shall we say, very important and also exciting part of our work, working with communities, mostly indigenous communities. You know, in the Philippines, more than 70% of the remaining eagle habitats are within ancestral domains. So the indigenous territories. So we're working with as many indigenous people, communities as possible, and make sure that by doing eagle conservation, it also brings tangible improvement in their lives. No, and we're very much invested on organizing forest guards. So we have over 400 able-bodied and very committed indigenous forest guards, mostly on Mindanao Island. And as Carla mentioned, we also work with their spouses, the ladies, and we assist them with their livelihood so that the family is basically involved in conserving our national bird and the forest habitat in general.
Okay, I've got a question. I'm just going to scatter a few questions in, if you don't mind. I've got one here from Janet Hopcroft. Do Philippine eagles travel far from the Philippines? Do they ever spread their wings and go to any of the other islands in that part of the world?
Well, they don't. No, they're very loyal, especially the couple. They're very loyal to their territories. And when I say territories, it could be between 4,000 hectares to 13,000 hectares of forests. No, they're very territorial. The juveniles, they would go out of their parents' territory and find their own territory. But the farthest we've recorded so far, no, based on our telemetry study, is just 100 kilometers from where the bird was bred. So practically, they're just confined within the Philippine archipelago. And out of the over 7,000 islands that we have, they're only found in 4 major islands, namely Luzon, Leyte, Samar, and Mindanao. And Mindanao, the island where the Philippine Eagle Foundation is based, that's where we believe that over half of the remaining wild population is found. So you can say that Mindanao Island is the stronghold of our Philippine eagles here in the Philippines.
Excellent. A couple of quick ones, Jayson. Poppy Goulder would like to know what is the largest wingspan of the eagles, and Joe Kennedy, what do they typically eat?
Yeah, so wingspan is 2 meters. Okay, about the size of a dining table. No, if that's a good example. And then what they typically eat, no, of course, they love monkeys, long-tailed macaques. That's the previous name of the Philippine eagle, monkey-eating eagle. But they also feed on palm civets. No, they love palm civets, and then they also love, here on Mindanao, an animal called the Philippine flying lemur. No, it's a nocturnal species. It's also found only on Mindanao Island, and it's one of its favorite food. They also feed on snakes, on other birds, owls, and they spend time on the ground, no, walking, looking for rodents and snakes, no. And so those are its favorite food.
Fantastic stuff. Now I've got a note down here, something to do with karate. What's the connection between Philippine eagles and a martial art?
Yeah, so well, we have a clip of a juvenile Philippine eagle, just about 4 months old, you know, karate kicking his dad, having some tantrums over meal because he doesn't want the dad, the male eagle, interfering with its food. So you know, we thought that it's a very light moment, no, for this father and son Philippine eagles.
Jolly good. Can I tell you, the last I heard, I haven't got an update in the last few minutes, is that we've managed to raise £1,500 so far, Jayson, Carla, and Dominic and Lohwana. So that's really good. That's fantastic stuff. Do keep giving if you're able to. It'd be great to boost that total even further. sibird.club/Philippine Eagles is the place that you go to donate. £1,500. Thank you so much to all of those people that have helped this morning to boost the funds of this remarkable foundation. Jayson, I've got another couple of questions. I'm going to throw one out here. What is the sight range of the eagle? Presumably, I mean, obviously they've got keen eyesight, but they are a forest eagle, and most of the species that you've outlined that they're eating are active beneath the canopy, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. Well, I think raptors in general, they have an eyesight that's 3 times the magnification of a human eye, and I think 8 times resolving power. For the Philippine eagle, they spend most of their time on the forest floor and under the canopy. They're sit and wait predators. You know, this is very interesting. The flying lemur and the palm civet is a nocturnal species. So they're both nocturnal, they're active at night. So the Philippine eagle hunts them while they're sleeping in their dens, no, in their roosting sites. So just imagine a Philippine eagle. We believe that they have a mental map of where these animals live, where they sleep, and that's where they hunt them. So that's one of the unique hunting expertise of our Philippine eagles, hunting nocturnal animals.
Okay, look, I can't resist it any longer. We've got Lohwana and Sinag in the background there. Sinag's being very vocal, which is antagonizing the pets of the UK. Is there any chance you could bring her a bit closer, Lohwana? Oh my goodness me. Look at that. Sensational. Sensational.
He's 5 years old. So he's our 5-year-old imprinted eagle.
Someone's asked here, let's see, someone's asked what's the difference between the male and the female? Typically with eagles, the females are a bit bigger. Is that the case with the Philippines eagle?
Yes, that's correct. So as a raptor species, he likes to have more attention on camera, clearly. But yeah, females are larger, and that's because biology-wise, they carry an egg, right? So that's one of the main reasons. But in terms of their chest, females look larger, and in terms of the feet, females are quite larger. So Sinag's feet are smaller. Morphologically, that's one of the ways to tell the difference between the sexes, male and female. Yeah.
Looking at the size of the feet, that's quite a challenge if you're out in the jungles of the Philippines, I can imagine.
Yeah, that's one of the ways we can morphologically just tell them apart, is basically based on size, because in terms of plumage, they look the same. Yeah.
Wow, look at that. Absolutely sensational. Okay, well, we're coming towards the end. Lohwana, don't go. Please keep Sinag there. But Jayson, would you mind coming back and giving us the answer to the quiz, please? I can tell you quite a few people have got that answer right. Alex, Charlotte, Poppy, Mary, Paula, John, Kevin, Yvonne, Ben, Madam, Debs, Pauline, Fiona, Denise, Elaine, Nigel, and George, Sally, and Ian have all got the answer right. So, Jayson, just run us through what the quiz was again to remind everyone, and then give us the right answer.
Sorry, Chris, I didn't get that. Sorry.
Okay, we have a bit of a Zoom hiccup there. So it's time to
answer. Sorry.
Time to answer the quiz.
Yeah, sorry for that. Okay, so the answer to the quiz is actually 58 days. Okay, so that's letter B, 58 days. So congratulations to the winners.
So that's the incubation period, and you can see the wingspan of the Philippine eagle very clearly there now. That's the incubation period. What about the period that the young spend in the nest? I imagine that's a few months.
Yeah, so the chick stays for 5 to 6 months on the nest before it flies off. But then again, the parent would take care of the young for another year. So basically almost 2 years of taking care of a single young. So once every 2 years, that's the breeding cycle.
So amongst the world's birds, that has to be one of the longest periods of parental care that we have, doesn't it?
Definitely. And so that's why our job is to make them safe while they're nesting, because that's when they're most vulnerable. And also, may I add that, they're very loyal to the places where they breed. So they keep using it. So we need to protect them. And that's where the communities are very helpful.
Fantastic stuff. Absolutely fantastic. Okay, I think we're coming towards the end. I can't see any more questions that have come in. I'd just like to remind everyone that the fundraiser is still running. We'll give you the total when we sign off in a moment that we've raised so far. sibird.club/Philippine Eagles is where you go to donate. Every pound would count out there in the jungles of the Philippines. I can't thank you enough, team. Jayson, Dominic, Lohwana, and Carla. It's been absolute, and Sinag, of course, who's stolen the show from all of you. I mean, I'm afraid you've been put into the shade by one of the world's most magnificent birds, but you're going to have to live with that if you haven't come to terms with it already. It's been absolutely remarkable to join you and help you out a little bit with this fundraiser. I've got one last thing. Before we started, you very kindly, a few weeks ago, posted your mascot to us. This is Pin Pin, and it arrived in the post via Jimmy from Raptor Aid this week. I've managed to keep Sid and Nancy away for it. They did have eyes for this. It wouldn't be in one piece now, actually, if they managed to jump onto the table. But I thought what we would do is, in a way, auction this. We can identify all of our individual donors. So why don't we say that the largest single donation in the next 24 hours wins the mascot pin? The largest single donation, but it has to be one where you are going to allow us to identify you. Obviously, if we don't know, if you donate anonymously, we won't know who to post it to. So it's the largest single public donation in the next 24 hours gets pin, which has come all the way from the Philippines in the post. Fantastic stuff, team. Thank you very much. Let's have one last look at CNAG. Come on.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you so much.
Thank
and
you.
also Jimmy Hill, thank you very much for the fundraiser. Take care, everyone.
Oh, I could sit there all morning looking at CNAG. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, birthdays, the bit that Megs normally does with so much more skill than me. I'm going to do my best. Right, today, Paul is 40. He works at the London Wetland Trust, and his wife, Rachel, will be on the show later this month. The London Wetland Trust presumably is now open at Barnes, and with social distancing in place, I'm sure it is one of the greatest conservation successes in the UK. It is an absolutely fantastic place to go, and I'm not sure if this is open yet, but when it's fully functional, the cafe is brilliant too. So I would urge you to go to the London Wetland Trust, and if you're there today, say hello to Paul, and in fact, say happy birthday to him as well. The bird list there's phenomenal. I went on one of the best bat walks that I'd ever been on at the London Wetland Trust. Yeah, fantastic. Next week, it's a happy birthday to Simon, whose birthday's on the 21st of April. He'll hopefully be spending it watching raptors migrate across the Straits of Gibraltar. Well, lucky old you then, Simon, because I think quite a lot of people will be liking watching the black kites and honey buzzards streaming over there. I did do that many years ago. When I say many years ago, I mean right back in the 80s, actually. And that's from Nikki and the hashtag Flyway Birding Family. Hashtag Flyway Birding Family. Alison has also written in to wish her twin sister Joanne a very happy birthday for Friday the 23rd of April. And now belated, I'm afraid. Yesterday was Stuart Ingram's 43rd birthday. Stuart's latest project has been setting up the bird feeder cam, capturing the comings and goings of their garden diners, including lots of new pairings. And that's from Judith, Sam, Grace, and they're in South Wales. Happy 41st birthday to Mandy. Due to the SIBC, she now has a great collection of books, binoculars, and even a trail camera. Excellent. I don't know what you got for your birthday this year, but that's really, really good. And just to continue towards the end here, last week we were talking about slime molds. One of our audience members, Julie Astin, sent in these excellent pictures of dog sick slime and some fantastic lion's made fungus. So let's have a look at that. Yes, there it is. I was telling Megs about this, sort of yellow, and it appears on the grass. And these slime molds have the capacity to grow in volume very, very quickly. So they appear to arrive overnight. Look at that. Yeah, that's fantastic. Lion mane's fungus. New Forest is a good place for that species, actually. And some of those species are extremely rare, like only one or two known individuals of that type of fungus growing in the UK. Dog sick slime mold. Gotta love it, haven't you? And then very finally, our winner of the deer skull, you may remember a few weeks ago, I was out in the woods with Sid, and he found the cranial cap and antlers of a roe deer, which he thought he was going to keep and chew to himself, but I confiscated it. He wasn't very happy about that. And we asked you to write in if you would like that, young people, of course. And we're very pleased to say that we sent it off to Ibrahim, and he sent us some pictures of him and his skull. There he is. He's looking very happy. And you can see, Sid didn't manage to get his gnashers onto it. He sent us a little message. My name is Ibrahim. I'm 15 years old. Thank you very much for giving me Sid's deer skull. It's the centerpiece of my display in my room. I would never have found something like this because I live in the city centre. I would really like to work in conservation. So for my Silver Duke of Edinburgh Award, I'm doing an hour of conservation volunteering each week. It's pretty hard for me to think of anything conservation-like in the inner city, although we've got a few small green spaces here. So far, I've done toad patrol on a road, litter picking, and I'm hoping to do some citizen science counting projects. Chris and Megan, have you got any other tips on what I could do for conservation in the city, either by myself or with my parents? Thank you, from Ibrahim. Well, Megs isn't here, Ibrahim, so I'm afraid it's down for me for some suggestions. Firstly, inner city areas in the UK actually do have quite a lot of green spaces. We've got all of our municipal parks. We do have cemeteries. Don't forget that cemeteries are very often well, hopefully a little bit overgrown around the edges, and they're often very quiet areas, and therefore wildlife prospers in those. So maybe have a little look around some of your local cemeteries, particularly some of the older ones, which are less visited. So they can be a good place. And then you might find that behind the hoardings and the bus shelters, there are still patches of unbuilt land, and they can be really good for conservation. And then think of the more obvious things. Most of our major cities now have breeding peregrine falcons. Many of them have webcams on. There's a whole host on the cathedrals, so you can easily visit those. And aside from the webcams, certainly during the active part of their breeding season, there are often teams of people there, volunteers with telescopes, pointing out the birds and telling people about them. So you could join in with that as well. So I think the cities can be firstly a really productive place for wildlife. What can you do? Well, we've seen that cultural outreach working for the Philippine Eagle Foundation this morning. We really do need to spread our word to a wider community. So I think it's coming up with inventive ways of involving your friends, family, people you live amongst, around you, joining in the projects. Maybe you could put up bird boxes in your area, sparrow boxes if it's appropriate. Maybe you could put up bat boxes. And we know that the more you put up, the better the chance they're used. So if you put one up, that's okay. But if you can talk your neighbour into putting another one up, and then their neighbour, the chances that they get used is so much greater. So I would concentrate on thinking how you can reach out into your community to engage more people with that wildlife that is around them. I'm sure there's going to be stuff there. Yolo Birder has launched his series 2 of Golden Grenades podcast. I think the first one's already out, but the rest are coming from tomorrow. So Yolo Birder, you can find him on Twitter, and he's launched his Golden Grenades podcast. I would also push you to those as well. Next week, we've got a nature book related episode, and we're going to be talking to a young naturalist, Thomas Gray. I saw him on local TV. I don't always have the TV on at that time of night. I don't know what was going on. All of a sudden, I heard this incredibly enthusiastic young man talking about the badgers that he'd been watching, and he's written a book about it. So I went and got a copy of the book to have a look at it, and it's great. So we're going to be looking at that book next week, and hopefully he'll be joining us live as well to tell us about his badgers. It's badgers in the time of COVID, which is really good. Now I'm just going to check to see if we've got an update on how much money we've raised. Oh my goodness me, £2,451, and that was 5 minutes ago. So I'm sure it's already gone up. It has. It's £2,851. So that's an astonishing total. Thank you so much for donating. I'm going to give the site just one more time: sibird.club/Philippine Eagles. And that's where you can make your donations to the work of the foundation that we've seen this morning. And remember, the largest single public donation in the next 24 hours wins Pin Pin and saves her from the jaws of Sid and Nancy. Now that's got to be worth something, hasn't it? Because frankly, if it's not saved from the jaws of Sid and Nancy, I'm going to have like fluff all over my floor that I'm going to have to hoover up. And today I'm quite busy. I've got other things to do. What a show. What a bird. What an extraordinary thing. I'm going to leave you with these pictures of a Philippine eagle being released into the wild. See you next week. How are we going to top that? Exit. Oh, okay. I've just been told, Fabian's on to me and saying that we've used our clip of the Philippine eagle being released. So rather than show it again, we're going to finish with another. We're going to try in a European way to live up to the Philippine eagle as one of the world's greatest raptors. And we're going to go to the Latvian Fund for Nature, who we hope to have on actually, because we feed their cameras over the last year, and we're going to show you their goshawk cam. So let's finish with a goshawk in Latvia. Yeah, okay.